Welcome back to Word Blindness Dyslexia Exposed. I'm Juliet Hahn here with Brent Sopel. How are you?
Concert? You went to a concert? And you're by the barricade? Talking like an old person.
No, that's what the kids call it. It's a barricade.
What happened to row one?
Because it's not row one. Because it's not, because you're on the floor. So there's no seats. You're standing. So you're on barricade.
That? And who does that sober?
I did. I think if I drank, I would be wrecked today because I had 2 huge events this weekend. And yes, did I eat late at night like shit? Yes, but it would have been so much worse if I.
Do you have any chocolate? What's that chocolate?
Oh, dark chocolate. I had tons of dark chocolate.
What's that forever chocolate? What's that chocolate? The healthy. Oh yeah. Did you bring any for real chocolate? That's it.
No, unreal. Unreal.
It's
for real. I did not.
Perfect marketing. Put a line through that. No.
Right.
Perfect.
Bill.
Oh.
What?
Remember we went to that Costco event?
Yeah.
And Elizabeth was riding the carts with some other women and handing out drinks and things they sell in the store. And we came home with something called Built Bar, right?
What do we say?
Built Bar. 17 grams of protein.
Wow.
6 grams of sugar.
Okay.
And I would have never, ever grabbed it. And I'm like, she's reading this. She's reading this. I'm like, no, you're full of shit. You're not reading right. You do not have your glasses.
Right.
So she was 100% right. And then we tasted it. It is phenomenal.
Really?
It is. There's only one flavor I don't like in mint chocolate.
Oh, I don't like mint chocolate. Yeah.
Coconut. We've got salted caramel. And we got peanut butter. Not only did we smash a whole box, we smashed the 2 samples that we got. We went to Costco, I think, within the next 48 hours and bought 2 more boxes and smashed those. And we introduced ourselves to fully stocked Built Bar family.
Are those the kind that you can't have in the house because you eat them all at once?
Well, that's everything, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
everything that's shit. Minus, I just eat anything.
But it's protein?
It's way better than the Reese's, but there's only 150 calories.
Oh, okay.
And
only 6 grams of sugar, that's great.
And they use a marshmallow base through the whole thing, but it's actually coconut base, but it tastes like a marshmallow and it has the texture of a marshmallow.
Yum. All right, I'm gonna have to look into this. But it's the fact that you said that you ate all of it. I have no control.
Oh no! Between her and I, there is zero control in this house. If we start, forget it; it's gone. But
yeah,
amazing. So, Built Bar. This is not paid. Nobody's paying me. This is not a sponsorship. I
think we need to reach out to Built Bar though.
Right?
We got some dyslexics that like you and ADHD. Interesting.
But that was a tangent. So we are.
Oh.
You wanted to start off some 3-series episodes. Is that what you're telling me?
I do. I want to do, because we've had some people reach out and say they love the podcast, but they wanted to give me some feedback. And I said, okay, great. Love feedback. And said, they work in schools and they're like, we have a lot of teachers that would love to use it as a training platform, use it to teach other or learn from it. And that we are a little bit negative to teachers, and a teacher is could take offense of it, not get defensive, get defensive. And I said, 100%, you are 100%. But they also said, I understand where you guys are coming from. And so it wasn't a judgment, but they also said, the thing is I said, we're really talking to the parents, educating the parents to be able to go through this process. And so, as I've said in every podcast, I have family members deep that are teachers. I have mad respect for teachers. good teachers that want to learn and that want to educate, not the ones that make you feel shit. And we talk about the ones that made us feel shit because that's what we're trying to relate to people. And it's not against teachers by
No.
any means.
And if you just jumped on and listened to that episode, I could understand. But it's crazy. That's one. I don't have anybody in my family that is a teacher,
right?
So that I literally just, as you were saying, you have a lot of family member. I never really thought about it until I don't think I have that anybody, but that's off off the topic. It's yes, we are usually talking directly to parents, but teachers are going to be listening too because they're parents too. So
yes.
And the other one was that I have to be clean, no swearing. Is that what?
So
I got a potty mouth.
So, well, not just you, myself too, because they also liked the one when we had Montgomery and Bradley on, and they really wanted to share that. But Montgomery was worse than all of us, and so they were like, "Yeah, I can't really share that with the group that I wanted to share it with because it's a little offensive." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So, which I understand. So I said,
"Oh,
you know
that
what?
was I remember that one."
Yeah, good. I mean, he used the F word like all through the entire thing, but he was passionate. He was talking about his frustrations. He was talking about as a kid that has gone through the system where he's been seen and heard and not seen and heard, and going back to public school versus private school. I mean, he's had it in college. There's
and when you're talking from hurt, as I do.
Exactly.
And yes, I got to do a better job of that. But when you talk from pain and hurt, it always leads you down kind of that track, right? So it's not. I'm not talking rainbows and unicorns and wedding cakes, but our wedding cake tasted so good. Actually, we got a piece in the fridge. I keep opening up. I want to eat, but I'm refraining. But so that's what we're trying to do is have these conversations so we eliminate that pain and hurt. It's the kid in the chair.
Mm-hmm. And that's where the whole thing really came from, because, and I'll start for someone that's maybe using this as a, kind of a training for their other teachers or want to have more understanding. When we got together at first, I thought I had worked through some of the dark side of my dyslexia and learning disabilities. I churned it into a very positive, like I would look at, but I turn things into positive because it's not a mechanism. It's just who I am. I can find literally a butterfly in any situation. I can find rainbows. I can just find the good in any situation. But when we're talking to teachers, there's a number of different things that we can really take you through from a bunch of different ages. So I think we should start with this one, Brent, and tell me if you think I'm wrong, but like first day of school, right? If you're kindergarten through sixth grade, and someone is not identified as having learning disabilities, there's a lot of clues that can be had that you can kind of see, but you have to really be able to look. A lot of nuances that you have to see, a lot of ways that we know how to get out of things and around things. And instead of saying the child is lazy or they're not focused or they're not listening, there's a lot of different things, and we can take you through it, but I'm going to let you speak.
Yeah, I think, the first example would be Montgomery, right? So he was in kindergarten. Is that when he was, or was he pre-K?
When
Montgomery wouldn't come in from the sandbox.
That was, when he was outside. So that was Bean Sprouts in Brooklyn. That was his 4-year-old program.
So, obviously every single day he never wanted to come inside, right? Obviously he wanted to stay out and play, and a lot of people can say that, that's a boy. But if it continues to happen day after day after day, there's more to it, because every kid wants to be by the other kids, right? Every kid wants to have friends. Every kid wants to be doing this, especially at that age. There's just, white on rice, wherever one goes, they all go, right? So the repetition, it may seem something small, but that speaks volumes. Why, and that could be anywhere. It could be on the playground. If a kid is in the sandbox playing by himself, never playing with with another kid, Because that age, they don't have cliques. They don't have friends. Yeah, they're drawn to different kids, but it's not like we're in high school talking right now. So, is that on the playground? Is that in gym? There's a reason why. And, for me, on my side, obviously I never connected with anybody. So I never had, a friend in school, acquaintance. So those little things that consistently happen, time and time again, there's more to it. There's a reason why a kid is doing that and not running to his friends, or running away.
Mm-hmm. And that's what it was. This is what was interesting in the preschool that he had. It was a Brooklyn-based play kind of facility. So they did tons of stuff outside. Everything was outside. They would take all these field trips, and I loved that for him. And the beginning of the year, the first 3 months, they just kind of let the kids pick the stations that they wanted to go. And then they would start encouraging them to come in and do the alphabet or write their name or color. And that's when the teacher was like, he never wanted to come back inside to do that stuff. He was the only kid that was not interested in his letters and all of that. Now, and I was like, oh, that's so interesting. She did say, do you have learning disabilities in your family? And I said, we do. And she said, I would just keep an eye on it, because it's not just like he's not right. And this woman, I remember we walked around the block because it was then we were going to be moving. I don't think we moved yet, but whatever. She knew that we were moving in a couple years. So she knew we were going to leave that kind of area, but she's like, just keep an eye on it, because it's not just a normal, he really is putting a huge amount of resistance up on it. Now, my mom's a teacher. My mom works and we did all books on tapes. We know how he read and all these things. So that teacher just took a second to be like, hey, I just want you to be aware of it. And do you have that? She knew that. There's so many other teachers that don't do that because they don't see that little nuance, right? They don't see, wait, he's really a lively kid. He's got a lot of friends. But the second now that we're in the second half of the year, he's really putting pushback into it. And yes, it could be a summer birthday. There could be a lot of things, but that should just be a little flag in that teacher's mind, right? The other thing is if that kid, now when you're in kindergarten, first grade, you're going to have the kids that go to the nurse or go to the bathroom often. However, there's going to be one or two that it's not because they need to go to the bathroom. It's because they're either taking a brain break or they're getting out of something. And there's two different things there. Yes, some active kids need that brain break, right? They get up, and if you're not having them in class regularly, you're going to have that kid. My nephew's one of them right now. And it's really interesting. It's like, okay, he's going often, but they're also like, okay, we know the learning disabilities. Let's keep an eye on that. Montgomery was always, oh, I cut my finger. I need to go to the nurse. Or, oh, this happened. I need to go to the bathroom. He was constantly getting out of things. Again, no one said anything when we went into the public school, when we moved from Brooklyn. No teacher said, maybe we need to watch this.
We, the famous saying, there's no such thing as class clown or bully, right? At that young age, they all want to be friends. They all want to fit in. They want to be that kid. They want to be able to do this and go up there and read with that person, or color over there, or do that over there. There's nothing more than that they want. And when they can't, that's when things like this, or if they have a tummy ache all the time, we develop anxiety at a very young age. And I'll give an example. Liz's mom, babysits, for a set of twins, and she's in kindergarten. And I think this was last year. My friend, or a girl in her class, there's a boy crushing her or something like that. And she's like, well, no boy will ever do that to me. It's heartbreaking. She's in kindergarten. So she understands that kindergarten, she thinks that's not going to happen, right? She's already built that anxiety. She's already built that, those things in her head, 4, 5, 6 years old, depending on what birthday, right? We develop this stuff very early. Going to the bathroom, right? Kind of like myself. If I make people laugh, right? If somebody's laughing or someone's mad, you're not asking how you're feeling inside.
Mm-hmm. And it is, if you think about that, you struggle, and this is what we talk about often. Even in kindergarten, you struggle. You know that things are not coming as easy. You start becoming aware. That's when kids start becoming aware of what other kids are doing. It's like, wait, why can't I do that? And as Brent said, when kids are little, they're not being mean on purpose. So like this is one of the things when Montgomery was little and his dysgraphia, when we then moved to Connecticut, one time he came home and he said, "Mommy, the kids are saying I scribble scrabble." And I said, on his picture. And I said, "Oh," and I knew, like, I was like, "Oh," because he couldn't color in the lines. And I was like,
I
"Okay,
still
well,"
can't.
I know either can I, right? It takes so much to color in the lines. I have to like focus, like, oh my God, it's too much. But like, and we had a really nice conversation about it. And, I said to him, and he didn't say like they're being mean, but he's just like, "I don't like when they ask me that because it hurts my feelings." And I said, "Well, why does it hurt your feelings?" I said, look at all the colors you're using. Like, look how it's like so beautiful because it's like these beautiful bangs of color and it doesn't have to be in the lines. Like yours is a different, whatever I did as a parent, it was fine for him. However, I remember feeling like, oh, but knowing those kids are not being mean. They're just saying, "Oh, why are you scribble scrabbling?" They're curious and they're not saying it mean. But then it's all of a sudden like, that's when then it gets building and building and building. And if you're someone that's not feeling good about yourself, instead of sticking up for yourself and saying, "Oh, I'm doing this. This is why I'm doing it." A lot of times the kid that is feeling shit, is not feeling well, is kind of retreating. And that's where you see like all of a sudden maybe someone's retreating. Maybe someone you can see them on the playground and they're really talkative and they're really out there and they have a lot of friends, but then they get in the classroom and they kind of try to get under the radar. They don't want to be called on. They don't want to
Oh,
get
that was
involved
the
in it.
worst.
Right. And you can see. And then those kids that are trying not to get called on and really trying to be aware of what their surroundings are because they're like, "Oh, I don't know how to do that and I don't want to come out here and I don't want to feel this." That's when like there's so much of the anxiety and the kind of the introspective, like they really go inside. And you can see those kids from the beginning if you're aware of it. And it's usually because of a learning style. I'm not saying it all is. There's a thing, people have family situations, they have other things going on, but the majority of the time, it's because they're not learning the way that is being taught to them. And then they don't know how to say, "Wait, I don't understand." Because you start asking questions. You also see the kid that asks questions and then stops asking questions when the teacher keeps putting the hand up or people get annoyed. And then it's like that kid retreats and retreats.
And we know we're different, but we have no clue what that means. And we don't know what this feeling means. It took me till, last couple of years to figure that out. Right. So they're not going to, ask, "Oh, what do I feel like this?" They don't know. They're trying to figure it out, and it doesn't make sense that, at those ages. And you can't see something if you don't understand. And, and we act so differently than, I remember teachers to ask, "Raise your hand if you know." I tried to fall, go under that desk, climb under the desk so you wouldn't call on me. Right? There's the same kids make the same behaviors, but very different to the rest of the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
a lot of times it gets, um, looked on in a negative way because they're not like the other kids. Okay, let's take those group of kids and try and understand, there's something going on in home life. It's going to affect the same thing. Because at the end of the day, when you don't have learning disorder, when you have learning disorders, your self-esteem is the issue. Now, if you get things going on at home, bad house, whatever, that's self-esteem, right? So it all comes back to the same thing. So if you don't find a way to understand what that self-esteem, why it's, being attacked, meaning home life or learning disorders of any type, it's it's not fun being on the other side. But that's where the teacher can, oh, those 2 or 3 kids, all right, now you have your eye on those 3 kids. Watch that. If there's a consistent behavior of, disrupting, the one guy, Marty, I think he was in high school. Every time he'd get called upon to read at the board or write something on the board, he'd walk up and hit somebody in the head, walking up. So he'd get kicked out of class. All right. So he never had to go out there. Oh, that's the 6th time that Marty's done that. Why is it? That's the only time Marty, hit somebody in the back of the head. It's not every day. It's not once a week. It's only so it's, take a look at when I say history, what led to that also. We'll continue on the Marty track, right? Okay, I think back, Marty, you write it down. Marty did it 15 times, right? Kicked him out of the class 15 times for doing that. Guess what? Did every time, was it involved of him, reading, or was it, what class were we on, where we were, what was the surroundings, what was the history, and you'll be able to solve some puzzles, some riddles, quicker, if you can kind of do all that.
Mm-hmm. And it's not easy. It's not easy to be a teacher, and it's not easy when you have 26 kids, and we know that. But if you see, because there's going to be kids that are doing the same sort of thing, and it's not, a lot of times it's like, oh, it's just a boy, I'm not going to pay. Oh, look, they just made some strides. You have to think about also at what cost and what they're doing at home. If they're getting tutored, depends on their social economic status. Like, are they getting tutored? Are they, skirting around things? You have to look at a lot of different things, and that's not easy because you are one teacher with a group of kids, especially when you're in the younger grades. And then when you're in older grades, we know it gets even more. However, if you see a kid doing things, for instance, a gym teacher, right? Like if a gym teacher sees Sally keeps going right every single time, you're like, okay, everyone go to the left. Like just pause and be like, okay, that she keeps doing that typically can be that she is having learning issues in other things. It could be slight. Like you might look back and be like, oh, no, she does really well in these classes. There's something, because the average person they know their lefts and rights. But when you have dyslexia or any of the 5Ds, some of you are going to struggle at that. Not everyone, because I know not everyone struggles with the left and rights like I do and others do. But those are like little things. Like a gym teacher can see that. Or if the teacher's like, okay, everyone up and go to this part of the room. And that kid seems like they're constantly not, or they constantly seem like their heads are in the clouds. That, that could be, it's not their head in the cloud. They're trying to process. Or if you're constantly having to tell them, like if you give everyone 4 steps, right? Everyone go get their pencil, go get their notebook, go to their cubby and get their crayons, and then go sit down. And you got 3 kids that do 2 steps and then they don't do the other ones. That's another big sign that there's something going on. Again, they could be young, but for the most part, it's not. It's not that they're young. It's that they have,
because we're born, we're born with this stuff, right? Remember, we're born with it, right? So that's how young it starts, when we're born.
Mm-hmm.
If you can label a kid as the bad kid, the kid, class clown, whatever, terminology, then you're able to, then you've labeled, right? I guess right words. If you took the time to understand that, take a couple more extra seconds and you'll find your answer, right? You're halfway down that rabbit hole by saying those things. And if there's kids in your classroom where those kind of terminologies come to your head, all right, now you've done step 1. Now those are your kids.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And not calling on someone that's not raising their hand. Maybe find out, like, it's not that they're shy.
And I don't even cut you off. To go back to that point, if that is your kid, if that is the kid that you've labeled in that group as a class clown or the bad kid, call whatever, those are the last kids on earth that you ever call out, because they're doing something for the reason. So now you go and call them out in front of your class, he doesn't know or she doesn't know. There's a reason why. Now you just made things 10 times worse by doing that. So now if it's a kid that doesn't kind of fall in this, right, then you're where the brain's wired is probably more apt to the opposite of us, right? So it's, if you're able there, you've kind of done that.
Yeah, because also calling on someone, like the thing that people don't realize, like our brains literally shut down. Like it shuts down. So like I could know the answer, but if I was in a panic mode and someone called to me, my brain literally would go to blank. And that happened to me time and time again in class, where it was just like, oh my gosh. And like if I knew something, I was a kid that would raise my hand. I wasn't the average person that hid all the time. Like I would raise my hand if I knew I knew it, but if I did not know, I would never have done it because I didn't want to be mortified. Reading, again, having the class, we're counting how many kids are reading. We're doing that. Going back, that's in the older grades, but then going back to the younger grades, I know everyone has to like the A, B, C, and D, but one of the things that Montgomery and Bradley talked about really like knowing, and I remember it too, and any dyslexic person you talk to, they're like, oh, I was in the lowest level and it killed because people were like, oh, you're not moving up. Oh, this person moved up. And it's like you all of a sudden are aware, oh, I'm on A and there's people on G and H and how am I ever going to get there? And that is so detrimental for a little person. And I don't know how we change that. I mean, that's the education system, as we said, needs to change so much, but as a teacher, they can
use those
change
numbers. You can have, like for an example, if you're doing, let's do numbers 1 to 10, right? Your level 1's your highest, 10's your lowest, right? Well, you can have a grouping of for yourself. Say, it goes backwards, right? They don't need to know. So why can't you make 5 the highest, right? But and you come up with your own formula in there. But no rhyme or reason, right? You know what that formula is. Kids will never catch on, and you've kind of saved games or alphabets, right? You're on the Z24 or the Z, or they don't need to know as a kid. If you kind of mix them up and have, I could come up with 22 formulas in a second, but whatever that is for that teacher, they don't need to know where they're at because we catch on, right? So I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, it does make sense. I mean, the one thing is I will say, and I think kids do know, they will know, but in the beginning when you're forming it, they're not going to know. Then kids, I mean, that is the one thing, having 3 little ones, like what level were you in this thing? And they talk about it, what grades, and it makes me crazy because I'm like, you guys don't need to know what level anyone is in. It doesn't matter. Like everyone's stay in their lane. It doesn't, and like friends would come over. Oh, or what level? Oh, did you do this? They know, but in the beginning, you don't need to make it so apparent that everyone also knows. Like, oh, you're the lowest, they're the highest, we're in the middle. Like it's so apparent, like right from the start. And if you tricked things up, again, yes, it's a little bit more work, but think about the kid in the chair that you could save and the kid in the chair that you're going to make a difference for later in their life. That is like a huge, huge thing.
For me, look at me. Elizabeth loves talking to strangers. It kills me. I come home and it's story time from what person she talked to at the. Well, I'm like, she came home from pizza and she went to the gym and had a new yoga instructor. She had her life's history when she came home after an hour workout. I'm like, how did you find? But
I love that.
She gets in the store. Hey, Home Depot. Hey, she'd go in there and ask one of the workers, no problem. Hey, I can't find this. Could you? I won't ask somebody. I'll walk the whole store 22 times and walk out if it's not, that's my anxiety. And I use it as talking about it as reference. I have a hard time, if somebody cashier screws up for a couple bucks or whatever, very rarely will I say something. Yes, if it's a huge, because what if I'm wrong? What if they, I say to the cashier, hey, you charged me $2 and oh, it was my mistake. I screwed up. Oh, that takes me out, right? Or going to Home Depot and, we're bought some floor cleaner, and we couldn't figure out if we bought it at Menards or Home Depot or I think it was Costco. Went to Menards and it wasn't there. But the anxiety I got, from that sheet, she's having her fun self and bopping around, and the anxiety I was having with that, because what if I'm wrong?
Yeah, and that's like kids that you do. I mean, you developed that early, and you weren't seen and heard by any of the teachers that you went through. And it's important for people to hear and listen, just to think about if you can make one adjustment in your classroom for the kids that are struggling. Every day they're going in there knowing they're going to struggle. And every year, kindergarten, first grade, you realize more and more, oh, wait, I'm different. I'm learning different than them. I'm not doing the same thing. And a lot of times it doesn't calculate until you're very aware, but you also see everyone else. And then you create different ways to get out of things. And so in the earlier grades, if we can keep that innocent child feeling supported and not feeling crappy about themselves, that's where you're going to save it. And you can help you can really help that child. And then as they grow, if it is missed, thinking about the older grades, what the kid is group, we were talking about this, like, you have these group projects. Montgomery was king of being like, I'll do this thing. And he would always pick the thing that wasn't reading, wasn't writing. And half the time I'd be like, well, do you know what? He's like, I don't care if it's not these two things, I'll do whatever. Even if the teacher's like, okay, I need a volunteer for reading, I need a volunteer for writing, or I need a volunteer. And the dyslexic, kid is like, I'll take the third one. They don't even know what it is, but they don't want to be chosen for those other two. So they'll pick something else.
I don't know if I ever told you in English, at grade 12, we did a project and I put a costume on and didn't speak. Made the other two read, and teacher gave me like a, I don't know, 60 or something like that. I'm like, perfect, thank you. I didn't care. I passed, but I did. Right. I chose the costume for that reason, so I didn't have to read. Right. And I stood there with this costume. Can't say what it was. It was wouldn't fly nowadays. wouldn't be good. But to that, back to that point is specifically choose specific things to get out of it. Right. And if it's again that track record, remember how these kind of things started. Right. Oh, like that kid keeps doing that. And it's not, and you don't need to call them out. Just have a side conversation or make something easier for them, right? Just, hey, I got you on this. I'm telling you, that kid is going to be like, okay, that teacher sees and hears me, and you're going to change that kid's life. Because I can tell you every single teacher that did something positive for me, I remember them. And I can tell you every teacher that made me feel crap. I can tell you exactly the moment, exactly where I was standing, exactly the feeling. I can even smell the room of it because it's so ingrained in when someone made you feel not good. But I can also, on the flip side, remember when a teacher said something positive. Usually then as the year went on, then it went negative, because then they were like, you're not trying, what's happening? And it wasn't that. It's just because I can speak and and do those kind of things really, really well. But that's the other thing. If you see a student that is super verbal and really great, and then all of a sudden their written work is really coming across not as good, don't say, oh, you're not trying, or, oh, what's happening? If it's time and time again, there's usually probably a dysgraphia that you are not aware of, or it's a dyslexia that you're not aware of and they're not aware of. And I think it was, I don't know if it was one of your friends, you told me that I was a teacher. I wanted to say, he said something about, they had to do a written project. And I was, we were talking, I said, well, why doesn't somebody do a verbal project? Do that project, in verbal. Obviously there's a lot more to it, blah, 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 those kinds of things. And you're like, I'll tell her that. And I think she's like, oh, I've never ever thought about that. Right now, that's a different form of learning. Now you're going to find more about those kids. If what that verbal project matches up to everything that's going on through the year, or if it's really off, there might be something. And I think she said, they can't, because it has to be part of the curriculum or something like that. But just, I use that, I speak that as an example of just trying something, a little bit different, and you'd find out a lot of answers also.
And the verbal thing I fought all the time for Montgomery, because his school, that was a dyslexic school, they gave the tests orally.
Oh, really?
And he was great. He was great. And I remember so much like studying and cramming and knowing the information so well, and then getting the stupid paper in front of you. I mean, Penelope's had this a couple times where she's like, I flipped the words when she was writing the answer, and she put like one word in front, and they take off. And I'm like, okay, well now they're not going to take off anymore, but because she got a 504. But those are the sort of things that I was like, oh, wait a second. And that's where it's really frustrating, because you know the information so well, but then the way it's worded, even if it's worded a little differently, the teacher puts it a little differently, or you read it like we talked about the texting, right? Like the texting and reading things wrong.
As a teacher, if you, instead of doing like A, B, C, D, D, none of the above, A, the answer, B, little slight change, and C, something different. If you did not a slight change, if you did the answer and 2 or 3 very different answers, you get very different results, right? Because now we know, right? Now we're not going to slip up. Like you flip one letter or you flip one word on us, we'll never see that. So again, there's another way of doing it. Again, if you do a couple times in a row, you're going to see, yes, can you say they cheat? And well, you can, but you know, you're a teacher, you can watch behaviors or things are going on, but there's another way of writing a test or a quiz, right? If kids know, right? You, again, go back to what I just said, if you do all the right answers and 2 or 3 other ones very different, they're not going to get 100% in guessing. But, if you, instead of doing 1 the right answer, 2 very similar, where you flip a word or a letter or something like that, and then your other couple ones, there's another way of doing a quiz, or call whatever you want, to be able to find out if the kid understands or learns differently, because that plays into us knowing the information and not getting lost on a word or a letter.
But that's the thing, we're not learning. And that's what's frustrating. I mean, Montgomery even still, he's like, Mom, I didn't learn anything ever, because it was always trying to figure it out. But like, I do know that teachers will say, especially in the higher grades, there's a curriculum, and they're not even making the test. The test is coming from the people that make the curriculum, or like makes the.
Can you make a quiz? I don't know. Again, I'm not.
Yeah, no. So that a lot of times the quizzes come from. It's like, okay, here's the unit, and the teachers are not even making the unit. It's like the textbook or the whoever came in that way. However, I think that there is a chance, if you have kids that you're like, wait a second, you can adjust it. Now, listen, I know that this is easier said than done, and we throw a lot out at you guys to kind of think about. But if you can take 1 or 2 little points of this and be like, okay, you know what? I can do that. I can kind of think about this for a kid. Or if you see the kid that's trying so hard and they're like so overly anal, like there's something there too. Sometimes it's the kids that have dyslexia and they're just overachievers and they're really, really even working harder.
Well, and perfection, there's no such thing. If you find a kid that needs to be a perfectionist, there's something to it. That's not how the body is wired. The brain's not wired to be a perfectionist. What is going on in their head to make it that way, or at home, or where friends surrounding, that's a sure sign something happened, or something is going on also, because nobody wants to be a perfectionist. What happened to make you a perfectionist?
Exactly. So if you guys have any questions about any of it, or there's stuff that we can help, because we can do podcasts without cursing.
No, you didn't.
Oh, I know I did.
Sure,
you did. I'm so proud of you. I totally did. But I did. I really tried to calm the energy and everything. I was like, okay, I'm going to be here and be zen. If there is something that would be helpful, we're happy to talk about our experiences, because that is what's going to help. The experiences we hear from others, experiences we hear from, parents. One of the next ones that we're going to record is some of these IEP meetings. I know we're going to touch on this, on how to help the parent instead of making it where it's the parent has to become defensive. There's a lot of stuff that can be different in there. again, we know that there's systems and you have to do things in certain ways, but there's always a gray area and people can step out of the area. I know that. So like, it's very frustrating when that is like, nope, it's just cut and dry. This is how it has to be. So we will definitely talk about that. But if there's anything, just let us know.
So how many episodes we're doing on the 3 series teacher support? Is that what we're calling?
Yeah, teacher support. We'll see. We'll see if we have any questions after this. This probably go out in 2 weeks. And then we have definitely some questions that I've asked some of the teachers in my world, and they all were like, oh, let me think. So they're thinking on it.
Ask, if we have more, we'll address them to the best of our ability.
Mm-hmm. But this is not like a gang up on teachers. I know some of the people that listened have said to me, people that I know, they're like, well, you're going to make us defensive. And I was like, we're not talking about the good ones. We're talking about the ones that everyone can be better in their job, their life, everything. And this is just giving some tips and tools on how to.
And as a teacher, always, you remember, the best references is the love languages, right? We all have different languages. So do the kids, learning, and some of them brain are wired differently. So it's going to be different than your thought process or what you would do and why would you do. So just remember, as you're sitting there, they always say, when you're doing a big speech in front of, picture everybody naked. As a teacher, just picture everybody having a different brain.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Thank you guys for joining. Word Blindness, Dyslexia Exposed. Don't forget to like, rate, review, and share.